welcome to the Illuminating Crossroads community. My name is Lisette, and today we're going to be diving into the month of July. So each month we do a little energetic check-in to see what the energies are and just pull through some supportive messages to support our soul's journey. I am feeling called to kind of do these videos a little bit different, so please bear with me. But I wanted to include the actual astrology chart this month, but I don't want it to be overwhelming at all. So when I do show the astrology chart, or even if I speak about specific things or terms, try to tune into how you're feeling as you're receiving these messages. Maybe noticing if your thoughts go anywhere specific when I talk about different things, and just remembering to always utilize your own discernment. These messages are to just be supportive along your journey, and you are always the leader and sovereign being of your life. So with that said, feel free to grab a notebook or a journal, get comfy in your space, and maybe take a few deep breaths to ground, and we'll go ahead and dive on in. All right, so I want to start by looking at the astrology chart, and I'm going to actually update it to right now. So I am located in San Diego, so that is where the time zone will be catered towards. But so I really want to actually talk about the new moon energy that we're still riding the wave after, because I think it's really important that when we're looking over here, and I'm actually see if I can circle this for us, when we're looking here at the sun and where Jupiter is, so this is around where we had our new moon, and we can see that now the moon starting off the week is over here in Virgo, and the moon's gonna make its way, I'll use the pointer, it's gonna make its way all the way to Sagittarius by the end of the week. And I think that this is really important to think about, because so for this new moon, it was a time of actually coming towards thinking, like, what are the things in our life that allow for deep nourishment? What allows us to feel safety in our bodies, to feel protected, and to really feel loved? And what things are not adding that into our lives? And also thinking of what are the things that we are finding deeper commitment towards? Because when we think of Cancer energy in an esoteric lens, it really is this essence of union or coming together between spirit and matter. So it's really important as we move through this week, we allow ourselves to continue to carry this essence of, like, where are we pouring in new energies? Where do we want to put our focus? Because we're starting to build up stories now. And I don't want to go too in depth with the stories that we're building up quite yet, because we'll do that a little bit later in the month. But coming back to our chart, we are building up our Saturn retrograde story, our Neptune retrograde story. We're already in our Pluto retrograde, and we're going to be having Mercury go retrograde in the month of July. So that's kind of a lot of things that we're, like, prepping for. So we're thinking of the places where we want to build new foundations, and how have we actually been allowing ourselves to honor that, like, we can take leadership of our lives, but also to not be in control in a personality sense, or I guess if you want to use the term ego, but to allow our soul to be the leader, which has been a really big theme that we've been continuing to talk about here in our community, that soul-led action, that inspired action, because that's going to keep coming more and more to the forefront if one hasn't been listening to the calls that you've been feeling deep within. So this is a really great time to kind of reassess as we move into the beginning of the month, knowing that you don't have to take quick action unless you feel inspired to do so. So really being intentional towards the things that you are nourishing and pouring into, because especially when we are building up to this energy in this month of July when Mercury goes retrograde in Leo, and we're really going to be thinking about our worth, and almost like this essence of, like, I'm getting the essence of, like, we were all born to wear a crown, even though, like, there is no higher authority, because in this bigger perspective we are all one, but it's that essence of, well, we are all worthy, like we are all like kings and queens, and even if that's not something or a symbol that you identify, but that royalness, that worthiness, that innate wholeness because of you just existing, of we, me, I, you, we, us, all the things just being. So that's a very big thing that's going to come up. And in an esoteric lens with Leo, we really think of that self-realization, that coming home to self, which is another theme that new moon in Cancer like allowed for a potential seeding for, which is something that's going to build over the next 6 months, or maybe 2 years or so, depending on what part of the cycle that you're on. But these are just really supportive things to kind of think or keep in, like, the back of your thoughts. So as we're moving through this month, are there areas coming up where there are lack of boundaries, because it's definitely something that Saturn has to deal with? Or is there fears that are rising to the surface? Are there those self-limiting doubts or beliefs that are arising? And especially with allowing yourself to be seen, to be heard, and to feel like you are worthy of being within a space. That's going to be really highlighted. And then also thinking of this like deeper essence of like devotion, so, or how you connect with things that allow you to feel not only in your heart, but to connect it, like to also be connected to this greater collective or greater whole, will also be a theme that is continuing to arise. And then we do still, like Mars will still be doing its transit through Virgo, so still thinking of like now's the time as well, like if there have been things that you've been kind of how do I want to say, like putting on the back burner and like getting it in order, so that like I'm trying to think of a good example. So for example, like say if you have been wanting to start something like a project, I don't know, and you've been kind of putting off the little details of like allowing for this creative idea, this spark, to be able to have a beautiful mold to rest within, to actually ground into your space of actually creating it. And of course, if there is nothing to hold or sustain something, then it kind of can't like fully ground into physical form, right? So like, for example, let's say you've been wanting to do more art, and in wanting to do more art, there are certain supplies or maybe certain techniques to have, and it's kind of seeing like, hey, well, what are the things that are needed to allow for completion of these things, because we also do want to remember that like it's just been getting highlighted more and more in my mind. So I just want to share that like we are in our 9 collective year, so we need to kind of close out some of those habits of areas where we've been like wanting to start things or do things, but then those like practical steps, thinking of that like Taurus or Capricorn, if you will, as well, of like, you know, a little bit of strategy is actually being called for a bit more, but not in an intense way, and in a way that it's like, oh, well, I'm feeling inspired to take this action, and I actually know if I do this or reach out to this person, that will make it more easier for me to accomplish said goal. So I hope that made sense. But yes, and I think that's all I kind of want to talk about for astrology, because I don't want it to be too overwhelming. So we're going to go ahead and pull some cards, and if anything else comes up in reference to the chart, I will be sure to notate that, but let's see what we get. All right, so we're going to start off with pulling a few Moonology cards to just see what are the collective energies for the month of July. And I definitely should have notated that we will be having a full moon in Capricorn on the 10th. And then later in the month, we're going to have a new moon in Leo. And I'm forgetting the exact date right now, but I'll put that information down below in the description. Okay. So the first card we have is Communication is Key, new moon in Gemini. We have Conclusions are within reach. And You are good enough, full moon in Virgo. So with these being the energies for the month ahead, this to me is showing that this is a month of like, I love that it's either new or it's full. So, because I think that's kind of reiterating some of what we were talking about when we were talking about the astrology and just thinking of the energy of the year as a whole. Because sometimes we can forget that we have these overlaying themes of the year. So sometimes when we're moving through maybe even different challenges or even coming to celebrate different things that are unfolding within this year, it's so supportive to remember that, like, in a bigger scale, there is an octave which we are wrapping up in a cycle, right? With it being a 9-year, and then we'll move into a 1-year next year. So this is showing that communication, especially since Gemini is going to be going retrograde in the middle of the month. I think it stations retrograde on the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, which I can actually confirm. But normally, you know, we do just want to make sure that when a planet is going retrograde, that we are, July 17th. So we just want to make sure that we are being mindful and noticing not only how we're communicating to others, but how we're receiving information, and also allowing ourselves to know that we can choose at times when we're having retrogrades. This is a time to choose something new. It's kind of like a going back, because we're creating some friction in certain parts of our lives, and then we're like able to kind of shift something. And I always like using the analogy of like, a snake shedding its skin, or even a lizard. They need some support. They need friction to allow that old skin to shed. So that is something that is coming through here. And then just knowing that, like, if you have been trying to come to clarity, especially as kind of what I'm feeling with the full moons here, knowing that, like, not giving up, even if it feels a bit overwhelming, it feels a bit hard. I'm just feeling this essence of like being sure to not give up and to like just keep pushing just a bit more, because it feels like there's this tension that's building, and then it almost like if there was I don't know, I'm getting the analogy of like a dam, or like the pressure is like building, but then it's just like, well, finally it's built too much, and then now like things have to flow again. And of course, like, take that if it resonates. It might not resonate for everyone. And then also this month, just allowing for a lot of maybe doing practices of allowing some reinforcing of like worth. And especially since the retrograde with Mercury will be in Leo, that's a really good time to do inner child work too. So anything that's surfacing from that point in time, or like older, younger years of self, now's a really good time to kind of speak to those parts within this month of July and see like what is needing to be nurtured more, right? Continuing with these like new moon Cancer vibes that are kind of like washing over, if you will. All right, and then we're gonna pull a few tarot cards to see if we could just get a couple more key details of what the overall energy we will be working with for the month of July will be. And I want to set the intention, like, how can you find more ease in the month of July? More ease, flow, and alignment. Okay. Okay. And I will say, I'm just focusing on this tree here that kind of looks like it's falling, but not quite. Like maybe it's being supported. It's interesting because I don't feel like it's falling all the way. So I will just say, if you are feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed in this month of July, being sure that you have, as in all the time, I feel like, being sure that you have a good support system to be there to hold you if you feel like you're not able to fully stand in your fullest essence, and knowing that that is okay. Like it's okay to rest, and maybe even being sure that you're communicating, maybe if there have been some difficult things that you've been moving through and maybe you haven't shared that with anyone, maybe now is a good time to allow yourself to share, so then you can also like I'm just feeling that like lessen that burden, like the whole like 10 of Wands essence, which I feel like that came through in the I think it was the summer solstice reading, so that might be nice to watch if that specific part resonates with you. Okay, so let's see, for ease, alignment, and flow for the month of July. Okay. So here we have the High Priestess came out first. And it did come out reversed first. So to me, I'm just feeling kind of this, like being sure that, like, to set the intention to move with ease and flow, it requires a turning inward to receive, like, the inspiration of where to move to or towards or away from, so you can experience that ease and flow. So intuition being really important in this month of July, as I feel like it kind of always is, but just kind of like really highlighting that. And I'm also interesting. So I'm looking at this, let's see if you can see here. I'll just boop. Okay, so this white here and the black, which are normally the pillars in the Rider-Waite deck, but this is actually making me think of a breathing practice that I absolutely love to do, although I haven't actually done it in a little bit. But it's really nice because there are some other parts to it, but I won't give all the nooks and crannies, but basically you breathe in white light or like white smoke, and then you breathe out any black smoke or gray smoke or stale energy, essentially. And then you just want to make sure that you have a candle lit, and then you just do that until you're breathing in, like you feel like you're breathing in and out white smoke or light, whichever you choose. So that might be really nice to do. And especially just thinking of Gemini energy being air and being mutable, so it might be really nice to connect with your breath, especially if you're being really in your mind. And of course, like, our mind does help with our intuition to a degree, but really allowing for, I'm just hearing like focus. Focus is really important in this month, so that as things are shifting, or there's like the, it's interesting, I feel like a bunch of like different turning of the seasons, that you're not getting caught up in the turns, and you're allowing yourself to like go with ease forward, because it's clear, like you don't have to go off and that's funny. You don't have to go off and do all these side quests unless you want to, because you can just, it's almost like, I feel like this came up, was it also in the summer solstice too? Or maybe I'm tripping, but like you can just walk through the door, like just walk through the door, and walking through the door, like, which just means like being more of yourself, being in alignment, and allowing for more of that ease and flows, just requires you to like to turn inward and to trust and to go. And so also not taking too long if you do get inspiration, or if something comes through for you to do, or like if that the doubting voice of like really honoring, okay, if that comes up, but like it's time to go if you're being told to go. Indeed. Oh, I think it was a Cancer reading, the Cancer new moon reading, because it was talking about, I think the analogy of Frogger came through, and like knowing when it's time to jump with the lily pad. So I feel like maybe this week, or I should say this month of July, is the knowing when to jump, so you kind of land on a more solidified, I don't like using like solidified timeline, but kind of, it's interesting that it feels like that. Yeah, so take it if it resonates. If not, you know what to do with it. Okay, so, and then we have the Three of Wands here. So this is showing that it's important to invite dreaming this month as well, which is also activating your imagination, which supports your intuition too. So really honoring, like, what are the deeper passions that you've been wanting to either cultivate or kind of give more attention to. Now's the time to do it, and not make any excuses for why you can't, because that it's like, I'm like, my spiritual team's like, that has no existence here. That's a hard no. So it's like, no excuses for not doing things that really bring you joy. It is the month to do those things and to really be dedicated to doing them. And then that moves us into the Hanged Man. And I'm going to actually restart the camera real quick. One moment. Okay, so then that moves us into the Hanged Man, which here, this is showing, like, if you find challenge and obstacles, you're being asked to look at things from a different perspective, because that will really support you with also finding the inner strength to invite yourself to move forward, even though it might be uncomfortable. So, because I am kind of feeling that this month, it probably will have a lot of challenging moments, but and I don't want to say challenging moments like it's like bad, but challenging moments, like it's almost like this calling of asking to trust yourself more deeply. So challenging being like those parts that have been maybe bogging you down or weighing you down. If you have been experiencing that, they're being challenged. So inviting this, doing practices that allow you to be grounded in your body and to calm the mind, so it's not so overactive and you can move that energy down your body, and then allowing yourself to kind of activate that inner child or creative essence, if you will, so that you can further support that intuitive muscle, and then know, like, what is it that you dream of? Like, what is the experience that you want to have in your day-to-day life? How do you want to connect with others? And I feel like there is also this awareness that will potentially come through at the beginning of this month, especially since Venus and Uranus will be having a conjunction, of what it is that you're actually valuing. There we go. Struggling. Valuing at a deeper level. So it's like kind of like a reshifting of maybe values of what's important now that maybe wasn't before, but now it is, or maybe things that you valued or found importance in that have now come back to the forefront for yourself. And here with strength, just allowing for, I almost want to say, in the month of July, it might be really nice to do like a daily practice. What is this cool? I'm probably definitely going to do this. To do a daily practice, like when you journal, if you happen to journal at the end of the night, or even if you reflect at any time of the day, to write down a few reasons that show your strength to yourself. So was there something that you did in the day that took a lot of courage, or that showed your strength, your resilience, or like reinforced why you're worthy, just because you are, all that you've gone through, that you've gathered, and that you get to share, because that will really also probably support as we move through that Leo retrograde towards the later half of the month, and then you can have a bit more clarity on what you want to set some new intentions towards when we do have our new moon in Leo. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to see if there's any supportive messages from the angels and ancestors for the month of July, or whenever you happen to watch it, this video. I'm like, I got stuffy all of a sudden. Beautiful. Okay, so here we have trader, exchange. Oh, I'm like, let me move these up because they might be cut off a little bit. All right, so here we have trader, exchange energy to create abundance, elder, move beyond ancestral patterns, and air guardian, shift your perception. So this is really beautiful. So I will say, if you have been experiencing any financial issues, or even health issues, allowing yourself to exchange, like, it's interesting. I'm almost feeling this essence of like exchanging your story, and also like what you can support with to receive abundance. But I guess those are kind of two separate things. So it's like, say if you've been going through a hard time health-wise, and then you share your story, and then you get to connect with other people who maybe have been experiencing that, and that just like kind of creates these ripple effects, then that might be like, it's like this exchange, right? So you give and then you end up receiving, like it's kind of like that component. Or like you have all these gifts, but maybe you have kind of been like, let's think of that like doubt or worth thing, right? We're talking about kind of some of that Leo energy stuff that's floating around. It can be, how do I want to say, it can be easier to receive more abundance if you're willing to exchange more of your energy. So even giving freely might support with allowing to receive. And especially thinking like when we're working with our belief, I should say within our belief structures, sometimes we have to take steps that don't make sense to help make sense for what we feel like we can receive, right? So maybe it's like, oh, well, I'm not worthy to charge, I don't know, like $50 for whatever, this painting, for example. And then it's like, okay, well, do you want to, like, how about you do a pay what you want for the painting, and then say somebody pays like $20, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that took me hours to do. It's so much more than, like, it's worth so much more than $20. Okay, well now you know, even though it's like, dang, did you have to go through that to realize that it was worth that? You know, that's kind of a question you have to sit with yourself, but it's like doing something to at least get the energy moving and getting momentum, so then you can receive more abundance in many forms in your life, not just money-wise, but yes. Oh, here comes blue, if you hear clicky clackies. So the next card, for Elder, Move Beyond Ancestral Patterns, this is really making me think of our upcoming Cancer full moon. So I'm not going to get too much into this card, but this is definitely a time in the month of July to really assess, like, what maybe what are some things that have been coming to the surface, especially I feel like when we think of our ancestral patterns or just things that we're working on closing out within our family line. They're things that come in many different waves. So sometimes it's just nice to do a check-in, like, hey, is this what I'm experiencing right now? Is it my truth? Is it something that my family has been holding, and can it now end with me, type deal? And then for the air guardian, it's just showing, again, kind of like how we had with the Hanged Man, of just allowing for a shift in perception. So really kind of like almost like stretching and stretching and expanding the mind a little bit, and allowing for how do I want to say, allowing for space too. So I almost feel like being sure in the month of July that you create space to just be, because then it can allow for the mind not only to relax, but to expand to where maybe you get new inspirations or ideas that can come through now. Because maybe if you don't allow yourself to take some time out to rest regularly, to have that as a part of just like deeper nourishment for yourself as you go on about your day-to-day life, that could provide space to open up different perceptions for you. Okay, and then I don't think I'm going to go too deep into the messages for these cards, but I'll just pull a few supportive animal spirits and crystal cards, and then that will close out our reading for the week. Okay, so we're going to take these three. So we have Dove Spirit, Be Peace, Flamingo Spirit, Embrace the In-Between, and Beaver Spirit, Lay a Solid Foundation. Yeah, I think these are very beautiful. Definitely cultivating the essence of more peace and what brings peace in your life. And that is also just thinking of kind of when we were talking about in the beginning where the tree was kind of leaning and like the other tree was supporting it. Like, this is thinking relationally as well, not just from like people to people, but like, you know, your relationships with your fur babies, your plants, your items in your home, like what in your life really brings you peace, and how can you focus more on that, you know, the whole essence, like where energy flows, where attention goes. So focus on more peace in your life despite what is happening in the world, in like your community. Yes, hold deep compassion and awareness and, you know, support as you can, but allow yourself to choose to have internal peace despite what's happening around you, if you so choose. So, and then embrace the in-between. I feel like that kind of speaks towards the door we were talking about earlier, if that did resonate with you. So, you know, maybe you're in between the space of allowing yourself to step through the door, but it's kind of like it's like choosing to make the choice and make the choice more frequently of things that provide you a gentle, or I guess it might not be gentle all the time, but a push towards the new. So then you can embrace this in between, but you know that like you're not going to be within these old stories anymore, and you can allow yourself to move forward even though it's not known, which is that in-between essence, right? Because it hasn't fully solidified yet, which again goes back to the reading I believe that we did for the summer solstice of that new archetype that's waiting over here. But it takes like gathering all the wisdom, the lessons and the learning from this archetype, the archetypes that we've worked with, that we've explored, the initiations that we've had in our life with just experiences, and allowing that to deeply open our hearts more and also open up to our unique wisdom as a soul, so that now we can step into this new archetype, but also lay, with the beaver spirit, lay a solid foundation for these larger cycles that we're stepping into collectively, but also individually. All right, and then we'll just see what are some supportive crystal spirits to work with for the month of July to allow for alignment, ease, and flow. So here we have Tanzanite, Clarity. And I always like to say, if you don't have any of these crystals that come out, you can always just call on the crystal spirit, its essence, and like in meditation, if that's something that resonates with you, instead of going out to buy it. But you can also go and get the crystal if you really wanted, but I'm an advocate of being able to call on the essence of different crystal spirits. All right. And then Morganite, relationship healing. Ooh. And then put that down. We have Boji stones, balance. And then this is a crystal I've been working with a lot. And then we have Libyan gold tektite, manifestation. So those might be supportive crystals to work with for the month of July for you if they do resonate. And then just thinking of colors, the green and the yellow are really standing out to me. So heart and solar plexus. I feel like if you are really navigating some trying to settle or how do I want to say, maybe rebalance within relationships, working with pink might be really supportive. And then if you're trying to work on that essence of that Gemini card that we pulled, the communication is key, it might be nice to work with blue for your throat energy center. And I think that is all I'm seeing. I do hope that this reading was supportive to you. I hope that everything was digestible. Please do let me know in the comments if you had any thoughts or feedback, or if you were tuning into any of these energies already, or whatever it may be. I love reading the little comments, little big comments, but yes, indeed. And if you ever are looking for some support along your healing journey, I do offer private one-on-one sessions. And for the month of July, I actually just completed a few weeks ago an EFT and TFT certification. So it's emotional freedom techniques and thought field therapy. So if that is something that you're interested in or want to learn more about, you can find that in the description. But I'm offering donation-based sessions. So if you want some support with kind of cleansing the emotional body, working on some belief systems or structures or what have you, or if you're just going through a deep purging or healing process, I'd be happy to support with that. And you know, it is pay what you can. So you can pay what you can. You can pay nothing. You can pay what you can. So indeed. And then we do have monthly moon circles. So those are held online. And if you can't join live, there is a replay available, and that is available at a discounted rate. And I think that's all I kind of want to share about. So I hope that you have a beautiful month of July. And I do want to say thank you so much to everyone who does comment, who likes the videos, and like, thank you for joining this community. I know that we may not be, oh, sorry, I got a call. I know that we may not be crossing paths with each other all the time, and of course our life always takes us in different directions, and I definitely feel that Illuminating Crossroads is a temporary stop, But nonetheless, I'm truly grateful because this is something that I've always wanted to do, is like build an online community. So it feels nice to put more focus and attention towards doing just that, and just kind of seeing where it goes with like no expectations. So please do know I appreciate every single one of you who watches, comments, likes, doesn't none of that, and just witnesses the video. Like, thank you. So indeed, so wishing you a nourishing month of July, and take care until next time. Bye.